Good evening, San Diego, and welcome back. Well, if you're hoping to deck new halls this holiday season, you may have noticed there aren't a lot of affordable homes on the market. Join us now to talk about the reality of San Diego real estate is Jim Bottrell. Jim, it's always so good to see you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
How have you been this holiday season?
Busy.
I'm
busy,
sure.
Busy. Yeah, it's been a little crazy.
And how are interest rates looking at this time?
Well, you know, interest rates are kind of funny. People think that they're waiting for interest rates to go down, and I hate to be the Grinch at Christmas and say that they're probably not going to. There's no economic reason why they should. People seem to be thinking that the interest rate's going to go back down to the normal, 2, 3, or 4. Unfortunately, there was just a series of events that happened a couple years ago, and they all had to happen perfect at the exact same time to get those interest rates at the 2, 3, or 4. And unfortunately, none of those scenarios exist anymore. So we're not going to get there. We're not going to get there. We're more at a historic, normal interest rate right now. We might see something coming, into next year as we get closer to the election. Right now, I'm seeing mostly high 6s. We might get in the low 6s. I might see a high 5. I'd kind of be surprised in that, but it might happen. You never know.
So if those interest rates do not go down, what happens to the housing prices?
Well, if the interest rates, if they don't go down, well, no matter what, housing prices are going to go up. If they go down, you're going to see a lot more buyers come into the market. National Association of Realtors said that there's 50% of buyers out there waiting for housing prices to, or interest rates to get to 5.5. But if interest rates don't go down, what we're going to continue to see is what we've been seeing. There is a massive shortage of houses on the market. People are not bringing their houses to market. I mean, think about it. 82% of all people that have a loan right now have an interest rate that starts with a 2 or a 3. They're not giving that up. They're dug in like an Alabama tick. They're not going anywhere.
So why is that? How come sellers are not, why are they changing their mind?
Okay, well, that's actually a great question. So think about the family. Let's use this as a scenario. Their family's expanded. They currently have a 3-bedroom house, and they've had another kid. It's like, it'd be great to get a 4th bedroom for, Miss Sally. That'd be great. They currently have a 3% interest rate. But to get that extra 4th bedroom, they got to go to 7% interest rate. And now they've effectively doubled their housing payment, or their housing cost. So their options are, the calculus, the way we think about it is, we can double our mortgage payment each month to put Sally in her own bedroom, or we can put bunk beds in the kids' room. And bunk beds are going to win every single time. So that's the way it's been, and that's the way it's going to continue to be. Where it's going to get interesting is if interest rates come down, you'll have a lot more buyers suddenly show up into the market, but no new sellers.
Do you think potential buyers are just waiting and waiting to see if these interest rates will go down?
Well, National Association of Realtors actually has a statistic out that says 50% of would-be buyers right now are actually sitting on the sidelines waiting for interest rates to get to 5.5% is when they're going to flood. All right, problem is not going to happen. All right, so there's also another statistic that shows for every 1% drop in interest rates, so it went from 7.5 to 6.5, 5 million new buyers enter the market nationally, and then if they're waiting for 5.5, there'll be 10 million new buyers that come in nationally. Here's the problem is when you run into this. We were trying to figure out in my company meeting the other day, what point in time do sellers start to sell their house? What point in time do they start to walk away from that 3% interest rate? And my answer is, I don't know. And I said, but we have 30 people in this room. Let's do an experiment. So I said, okay, here's your scenario, everybody. You are a young family that has a 3-bedroom house. You've had another kid and you want to go to 4 bedrooms. Your current interest rate is 3%. I said, so now I'm going to I want everybody, 30 people in the room, I want you to raise your hand. Well, I'm going to start working my way down interest rates. Raise your hand when you say, I will walk away from my 3% to get that 4th bedroom with whatever rate. So I said 7%, no hands. 6.5%, no hands. Nobody's willing to walk away from 3% to get 6.5. 6%, no hands. 5%, or 5.5%, no hands. 5%, 3 hands out of 30. 4%, 15 hands went up. And then when I got to, 4.5, 15 hands went up, and when I got to 4, the remaining 12 came up. So that told us, and I know there's plenty of statisticians out there saying that's not a big enough sample size, but it told me everything I need to know. Sellers are going to wait until somewhere between 4 and 5% to where they can walk away from that 3% interest rate, and then they will do that. The problem is we're not going to get there. There's nothing that suggests, nothing economic says that the interest rate should be coming down. So again, I think that we might get in the low 6s, we might see something with a 5, but again, the sellers, their calculus for doubling increasing their mortgage payment to move to another house just isn't there. They're not going to do it.
All right, these are great tips. Okay, for those potential buyers watching right now and they want to buy a home, should they buy right now?
Okay, well, I'm always one who says yes, but if you go back to, I've been doing these interviews for 2.5 years, I'm the one who's been beating the drum saying inflation's coming like a freight train, buy now, interest rates are low, housing prices are going up, doing all that stuff. I'm going to go ahead and continue to beat the drum. There are a lot of people out there. In fact, when we were at Little Tommy's Breaking and Entering on Saturday morning, I was there at 5:45 in the morning. It's 50 degrees. It was cold as heck. I was talking to a lady who was there, and her son was trying to buy a house earlier this year and elected to stop because he wants to wait for interest rates to come down. And I said, that is a terrible idea. I said, because what is happening is if interest rates come down, a whole bunch of new buyers are going to flood the market. Let's say interest rates go crazy and go to 5.5%. 10 million new buyers come in nationally. That's a lot right here in San Diego. So new buyers come in, but that's not a low enough interest rate for sellers to sell their houses. So what's going to end up happening is that person is now, that buyer who waits is now going to compete against a whole bunch of new people for the same number of houses that are for sale. I said, so here's my advice. Go ahead, bite the bullet, buy it today. Your interest rate's a little bit higher. I do expect interest rates will come down as we get closer to the presidential election, and then refinance into the lower rate. That way you can get today's price at tomorrow's payment, and you can get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and thank you for providing that information for our viewers. And we appreciate you being here, giving us an outlook on the real estate market
My
and
pleasure.
the interest rate. Jim Bottrell, thank you so much.
All
Good
right,
to see
thank
you.
you.